Hey, I am excited to teach you this painting. It's kind of a revamped version of the painting that went viral last year, but these are the new on-trend colors. So I'm excited to share this with you so that you can use it for your paint parties, for your online paint parties, all of that great stuff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share with you a new canvas size as well. So a lot of times in our paint party world, let me go ahead and start a time lapse. Remember, if you're doing this, you always want to have a time lapse going too, as you're about to paint something. But I noticed at Michael's that they are having all kinds of canvas packs in different sizes. So we'll have the tracer for this size, 12 by 16, but I'm going to freehand it so you'll see how easy it is to freehand. But also, again, we'll have the tracer size for 16 by 20 as well. But because we're using metallics and a bunch of different stuff, I highly recommend doing the 12 by 16 with $35 a person on this one. And remember, you always want to be changing it up. If every time you do a paint party, you only do 16 by 20 and that's it, again, your customers need some time to where they're not going to be bored. You know, they want to do something fun with you, but they want to do new things too. Okay, so our first step, and we're going to be using some fun colors. It's all on the list for you if you need to grab it. But our first step, and again, if you are tracing this, which I highly recommend for your guest, go ahead and have the bunny traced out and just the basic, ears, head, body like that, and maybe the bow tie. I wouldn't worry about the flowers, but if you're going to teach it like I'm teaching it, which is totally doable, you're going to just have them paint the whole background and the sides with rich espresso. Okay, so rich espresso. And I want y'all just to remind y'all, I know some of y'all are already on my text list, but it is the biggest. Like a lot of times I will text and say, hey, I'm live in Paint Party headquarters right now. And I want you to be able to know where I'm at. We get messages in customer service all the time. I missed this. I missed the meeting. I missed this. And I want y'all to know where we're at. So if you have not texted me, you just pull up your phone like you're going to text your friend. You can pause this video if you want. Pull up your phone like you're going to text your friend. And instead of just, hitting somebody's name, go ahead and type in 817-373-5478. 817-373-5478. And then you can just text, hey, BFF. You could text, PPHQ, whatever you want. And then what that'll do is anytime I'm live, even if I'm on Texas Art and Soul, any of those times, remember, as Paint Party headquarter members, if you see me go live on Texas Art and Soul with a project, that means that you can right then do that same exact project. You could do it for a paint party. You could do it for a live to gain engagement, to build your following, all of that great stuff. So I don't want you to miss a thing. And then if you're like, okay, I don't want to see your text, you can always unsubscribe at any moment. But it's just been a good way to show y'all how you can find me so that you don't miss out. You don't miss out on the fun new stuff. Okay, so I would just have them take their brush and kind of go like this. Again, people can choose their own colors. They can get crazy, creative, all of that. But we are doing this color palette because this year, this is very, very popular. This color palette of greens, of kind of a woodsy kind of feel. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry for a second, and then we'll get started on how to get the rabbit going. Okay, so step one, this is step one. Step two is you're gonna have some white paint. And what I like to do is just get these smaller plates, and we're gonna use this. This is our paper plate, our paper plate bunny. And we're gonna use this as a guide to kind of get the right placement. We want him to go off the page just a smidge. And so what I'm gonna do is take my brush here, just load it up with some white paint, and then basically just trace it. We're just gonna trace it, that's it. So if you're doing this as a paint party, go ahead and have those on there. But if you're teaching it maybe online, and you're teaching it just as a online party or something like that, you can teach it where you just, what I'm doing right here. And then just bring these down like that. And then up here, you're just going to kind of find the placement in the middle and just bring it over. And again, bring this one over, bring it over, and then bring that one over. And then you're going to fill it in. So just go ahead and grab a bunch of white and fill it in so it has a really good coat of white. If your metallic is a little bit still wet, you can either let it dry or you can kind of mix it in, but you really want to have it pretty good and dry. All right, so go ahead and fill it in. All right, go ahead and rinse your brush. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add some greenery. And what's popular right now is having kind of a lot of greenery, okay? So we're going to rinse our brush, and we are going to be using a dark green. This is a black forest green, and you can use, any dark green that you want. But if you want the exact one, if not, don't worry, you can grab something that's close to it. And what I want you to do is just kind of start adding in these big, almost like football shaped leaves. Okay. So if I add one in here, I might add a second one because I know I'm going to put a flower there. And I'm just going to go in and just start adding in just a bunch of leaves here. And we might go back and change this a little bit. But for the most part, just kind of get some big chunky leaves. And remember, don't judge your painting until the very, very end. Sometimes don't even judge it till the next day because it can make you crazy. Plus, a painting's not supposed, like right now, even my painting, it isn't even that cute right now. So you got to remember, it's a process. Okay, so we have that down. Now what we're going to do is just kind of, I'm not rinsing my brush. I'm going to grab a little bit of the Festive Green Metallic. And I'm just going to kind of take it and just almost just get an edge. Again, we're just kind of filling in some color here, and you'll see in a minute we'll go over stuff, but we're just filling in color. And this is again a fun painting for kids as well as adults, so you can change the color scheme. We have a spring bunny that went viral that we've used this from. That's one thing that's really cool. If you have paintings that have gone viral, you're never going to be around Easter time or springtime and bunnies won't be popular. It's just, just like painting crosses, those will always be popular any time of the year, but especially around spring. So you can take paintings that you've done in the past. This is a little wet right here. I'm going to dry it. But you can take paintings that you've done in the past and kind of bring them up to speed to the newest trend. And this is a heat gun. We'll put a link for it in the information. But this, you have to be very careful. And just a PSA, this will burn you so bad. And what I do is I have an old, because you have to be careful where you set it. I have an old pan, and this is where I set it. So you have to be careful. You can't touch this. You cannot, let me repeat. Oh, sorry, that was loud. Let me repeat this. You cannot turn this on and then put your hand to check it. No, no, no. Okay, so I'm just grabbing my green and getting some placements. You can also take like a paper towel if you wanted to dab it a little. That's fun too. Okay, so what we want to do now, we have some green on here. Maybe I'll put a little bit more actually. I'm gonna just really get a little bit more green on here. I'm just taking my 1-inch brush and just dabbing. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, nothing major. Just blobbing. All right, so I can grab back if, this wasn't filled all the way in. Again, I didn't rinse my brush, but I can kind of fill that back in if I covered it a little bit. As I'm thinking about this, step 1, this, step 2, this, and now I would probably have my customers do this next and then throw in the green. So again, I'm just showing y'all too, like as I make mistakes, as I make mistakes too. As a painter, sometimes we just kind of go for it. So you could have them do that first and then go ahead and bring in leaves and stuff like that. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and rinse our brush. And while this is being rinsed, our next section is we're going to let this dry a minute. So again, if you're at a paint party, it's not going to be that big of a deal because as you're going around helping, it's going to be drying. But if you are in your art studio or you're doing this at home or you're teaching it online, just say, hey, everybody grab a blow dryer or maybe play like a fun game. So I'm going to be drying in between just so I can, get it painted for you. But remember, in a paint party setting, it's not that big of a deal because people go at different paces. All right, so now what we want to do is just grab our big brush and we're going to grab a darker brown. Any dark brown would do. I'm going to use espresso. but you could use dark chocolate or anything like that. I'm just going to use a espresso brown. And from this dark brown, let me put this in the right place so I don't forget. I'm just going to grab it with my 1-inch brush, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the ears. So again, this is another kind of football shape, and then you'll just fill it in. So I like to kind of get that ear traced out and then this one traced out. And again, if you have the bunny drawn out, do your guest a favor and go ahead and just have that drawn out as well. It's just nice, especially the eyes. I find that people really freak out. I know you're going to see it's just a blob and a blob, but people, will spend so much time on their painting and then they put their eyes too close together, or, whatever the case is, or they're not as confident with painting. Because again, you're teaching this to sometimes brand new painters. Load up your brush with your flat, and then just right here in the center, almost like you're making a box, just blob, 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 then fill it in. And then you're going to start here where that neck is, bring it out, a little round curve, in, out. So see how it's inside the box a little bit, and then fill it in. And don't be scared to put, a good amount of paint on this, because you don't want it to be see-through. So I usually grab it, put a good chunk of paint on it. All right, same thing here. Start here, out, a little curve. Make sure you start in and then go out. So a lot of times the bow tie is really simple, especially for beginners. But the thing that trips them up is they go from the edge, which is okay. It's not the end of the world. But they'll go from the edge and they'll forget to go out and then bringing it back in. So they'll end up with this kind of wonky bow tie. So your job as the paint party teacher is to show them it's just a box, and then it's just an out. And then again, this is another thing that you can avoid all this. If you're doing this online, it's different unless you're providing a tracer. But you can avoid all of this by just having it pre-drawn. And then it's just like a color by number, except for the flower part, which I'm going to show you in a sec. Okay, so we have that. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, while we have, we're going to go ahead and rinse this because we need to get this other color. So the color I'm going to start with is antique gold. Now, I know it's shocking. I'm not using 24 karat gold. I'm trying to expand my painting colors so that we're using different colors and staying on trend. So although I would love to just paint this bunny hot pink and turquoise as all, what I like to do, I'm going to just start to kind of just take this and almost do like a little wave. So it's not a perfect circle. Okay. So you could do a perfect circle if you want, and then just kind of blob around it. And this is where, your guests can have a lot of fun. I'm going to put another one right here. This is where your guests can have a lot of fun. They could pick their own colors. If they want this color scheme, just tell them, like, kind of stay with the colors and either lighten them up a little bit with white or, things like that, so they can keep this color scheme if that they want. But these would also be really pretty if they were like a white, just solid white here on these flowers. That would look really, really good and soft. I'm going to grab a big flower right here. So again, just blah, 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 blah. And the reason why I think this this painting went viral last year is because it's a paper plate bunny. And it's something really easy that people can do. Remember, in Paint Party headquarters, you can paint this online. You can teach it online. You can go live with it and, get engagement. How many people would stop and watch this? Hey, I'm going to teach you how to paint a, paper plate bunny. They're going to stop and watch. So it's a good way to get people to know you. And then you could run ads to your local area and say, hey, run ads as a time lapse. Maybe you're time lapse in this, then you could run ads to it and say, hey, let me teach you how to do this in person. And then you have, all of those views from people in your area. So there's so many possibilities. Okay, go ahead and rinse that out, because we're going to use the same brush again. Same brush again. And what we're going to do is just kind of start to make some more greenery. So here I'm just going to kind of like put a line up, and then I can make little like dashes almost. So just anywhere you feel like it might need a line. And these will always turn out a little different. You're never going to be like, oh, that's an exact replica of this one. Even me painting this one will be a tad different. Okay, so I'm going to maybe throw one up here. We're just trying to make it look like it's, think of a wreath. They have all those little like sprouts of color and little sprigs, and I don't know all the terms of wreath making, but they have all those fun little sprigs coming out and fun little things coming out. So I want you to be thinking of, a wreath when you're doing this. I'm going to bring that leaf back on top. So I just pulled that back on top, no big deal. And then I'm going to grab some and just kind of put some color in here, some of the darker color with some spray. Again, watch my brush strokes. I'm just blobbing. Just kind of blobbing. Nothing major, just some blobbing. Just some blobbing. Another fun thing to do, just so you have this in your toolbox if you want to use it. If you grab a paper towel, if you're ever trying to like fill in some stuff, just kind of put it like this. Grab maybe both colors, and then you want to dab it off on your paper plate or your side. And then look at this, how cool that is. So you can dab the two colors, dab it off, and then just see how it gives you some texture. And it's done with a paper towel. Blob off. So if you're like, I don't know if I like that, just paper towel it. It gives it some fun. Okay, so we kind of got some really fun texture going on in there with the paper towel. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take this brush. This is like a 6 or an 8 round. And this is where you can take your dark green again, the same dark green, and you can kind of maybe have like a little line, and then you could just blob, and it almost looks like leaves just by using this brush. Isn't that cool? So you just kind of take it. Again, we're just getting a lot of different textures here. So I'm just kind of blobbing. And you want things to overlap. This is like a woodland bunny. He's like in the woods, and he's peeking out, seeing what there is to eat. And it's okay to overlap. If things don't show up all the way, that's okay. All right, and now anytime we do something there, we want to kind of just make sure we're repeating it over here. So we have some continuity. I used a big word and it came out right. Okay, now that we did that green, we're going to go to the metallic festive green, and we're just going to kind of blob a little on top of where we just did that. Now, why do we do that? We just do it to have a little bit of extra dimension. Nothing major, just literally what we did. We're just going to blob on top. Another fun thing is I'm going to take a little bit of this and just kind of add to one side of these leaves. And if I added too much, I can always go a little bit to the darker green and blend it. Okay? Anywhere you see some of the green we did before and you feel like it needs a hint of that festive green, just grab and add. Oh, did a little rhyme. Just grab and add. So when you're walking your painters through this, this is what you'll do. Okay, grab the dark green. Now we're going to just grab a little hint of the light green and put it on top. And then you can just blob you know, if you want to do that. But we're going to rinse this brush because we're going to actually add in a little color. Okay, so before we add the color, let's go ahead and get our kind of pink cheeks on there. Now, this is the only time we're going to use the cotton candy. Now, your guest may want to use it in some of the flowers, but we're going to use the cotton candy, and I'm actually going to just use my fingers. So I dipped it, and then I'm just going to kind of find the placement of the eyes, which again, you'll have the eyes drawn out in the nose, but I'm just going to kind of like circle it on there. So I'm dipping. It's probably more wise just to use the same finger. Now, I don't know why I kind of like to do this. I don't know. I like to finger paint sometimes, like just, you know, as part of the process. Again, it's part of the fun. So if you have them do this, and then let's say they put too much pink or they don't like it, baby wipe emergency. Just say, hey, if you ever, you know, just painted something, you don't love it, yell baby wipe emergency. But this doesn't have to be perfect circles. It just needs to have the illusion of some rosy cheeks. So have them put that on there before you start adding some purple flowers and some details to these flowers so that it can be drying. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our smaller brush, and we're going to use purple, this plum color. So basically I have a frosted plum and a amethyst metallic. Now, with this being said, you can use something similar. So if you don't have the exact, it's okay. And I'm just going to use a liner brush. And here's where I'm just going to start finding placements and just start doing almost like little dots. Okay, so this is just to represent, and you'll see after I put that on, I'm going to go back with the frosted plum and just kind of dot it. It's just to represent abstract flowers. Nothing more, nothing less. It's literally just to represent, hey, there's some color in there. Looks like there's some more flowers in here. So as you are watching me, it is abstract, very abstract. It is just blobs. You're seeing it right here. So when you teach it, you've got to make sure they know as your guest, it's blobs. Because if a perfectionist gets a hold of trying to do this painting and you don't like release that, like, hey, it's going to be okay. We're just blobbing. We're just putting dots here. They will go, I want the dot here. I want the dot here. I want the dot here. I want the dot here, which again, we want perfectionists in our society. We need perfectionists in our society for certain things. But when it comes to doing an abstract painting like this, and I've taught I've taught thousands of people, and I have come across where we get to a point like this, and perfectionists will literally, like, if you don't just kind of, it's your job. That's part of your job, is to tell them, hey, who's a perfectionist in the crowd? Okay, self-proclaimed perfectionist. Okay, I want you to take a big deep breath because we're about to do something that's going to feel very strange. But if you just let loose and know that, hey, this doesn't have to be a painting that's hanging above the mantle. This is more about the experience of what we are doing right now together. This is about the experience of having fun. This is about the experience of just letting loose. And I want to give y'all all permission to, this doesn't have to be a social media post-worthy painting. If it does, that's great. If it's not, just give yourself permission to have fun right now. And if you do a good job telling them that, and, I know y'all have seen some of my videos where I do the intro. If you haven't, if you'll, in Paint Party Headquarters, if you'll just search, Heidi intro or intro to Paint Party, you will see me teaching where I have people, like, at the beginning, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise not to have, have a lot of fun or whatever. And then I say to not judge my painting or my friend's painting. And they all laugh. And then I say until the very, very, very end. And then usually they all laugh and they go, okay. But you just got to, like, prep it. The more you tell somebody it's going to be okay, the more they're going to remember that. So the frosted plum right here between, there's going to be the eyes here again. If I was doing this as an in-person, I would have this drawn out. You may already have the tracer and it drawn out, so you're like, oh, not a big deal. But if not, it's kind of like a little pea, or a lima bean, I guess you should say. But again, I would have this drawn out so they're just filling it in with the plum color. So that way it just takes away all the stress for you and them, especially them, but for you, because then you're not like, oh, making sure they're okay. All right, go ahead and rinse your brush. Now, while your brush is rinsed, you're going to take that dark brown we were using earlier, and you're just going to do these two U's, okay? So I always like place my pinky, and then I have one that goes this way, and I'm just rolling the paint on. Rolling the paint on. Okay, and then again, if you have this drawn out, you may want to draw it in Sharpie so it shows up when they paint the white on. But then again, this is where people are coming to the end and they're like, I just messed it up with that, and they can get kind of sad about that. Okay, so now while we have the liner, we have the brown. Go ahead and just lightly, kind of just here and there. You're not fully outlining everything, but you're just kind of placing a line here and there. And if you have a dark brown or even a black Posca pen or a paint pen, this is where, as long as it's dry, they can use a paint pen. And this makes it way easier and just way more successful. So if you're doing a big party of bunnies, I'd recommend getting a set of, paint pens. Here's some Artistro paint pens you could grab which we're not going to do too much white. We're going to be using a brush for our white, but if you wanted to get a set of black ones, a set of white ones, and then maybe even if you're doing a ton of the bunnies, if they have a dark brown, go ahead and get the dark brown. Okay, so we're just adding some little hints of that in here. If this isn't all the way covered, you can kind of just fill that in while you have the brown right there. Same thing with the bow. If it feels like it needs a second coat, be cautious though as you're teaching this. I probably wouldn't teach this at an in-person, like, hey, do a second coat, because then now they're going to do the second coat for everything. So you have to be cautious. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move to a paint color called terracotta. Terracotta is a really fun color. And what we're going to do is just use our liner brush, grab it, and just we're going to take our flowers and just kind of dash in there. Now, again, I'm just doing basically little commas. Just looks like little commas. Okay, so grab little commas or blobs or however you want to say it. And again, this is another place where people can kind of freak out. So just a heads up, I want you to prep them by saying we're just going to do little commas. Promise me you're not going to judge the painting until the very, very end or tomorrow. Because again, when you're staring at it, they can look weird, but then after you're done, you're like, oh, now I get it. It's abstract flowers. So just little bitty comments. Okay, so just double check your painters. Make sure they did not miss one of the flowers. And then you can go ahead and rinse your brush. All right, go ahead and rinse your brush, dry it. And then we're going to do the same thing with this really fun color called Champagne Gold. Again, are you so proud of me? I'm not using 24 karat gold. So Champagne Gold, you're going to do the same process in the flowers. So again, this is just to give it some dimension. And this is another reason why I want you to teach this on a smaller canvas, because there are a lot of little pieces to this painting. And if you're doing this on a 16 by 20, you're going to add probably 45 minutes to your time. So I want you to be able to do this in about a 2 hour 2-hour class. Kids are going to be way faster because in a kid's version of this, you just make the colors one color, and then you can, have them do a little swirl or a little Posca pen. The kids' version of this does not have to have all these little blobs. But for the adult version, it's really, really fun. And also remember, feel free. You can take this painting as is, and you can use the brighter colors we have from the one that went viral. Or you can also take this painting and change it up, if you want these flowers white, like we talked about, things like that. Okay, so now I'm going to take that same color. I'm just going to turn it over the brush. Actually, I'm going to use a bigger brush because I need a bigger dot. So anytime you need dots, remember, don't use this front of your brush. Use the back of your brush. And depending on what size dot, if it's not a giant dot, you can use like the 1-inch brush and you can just dot it. And this is where people might do, let's see, they might do, stripes on the tie. They might have like some kind of cool initials they want to put. Again, this is where people can get creative and fun and just having some freedom in it. And I highly encourage that. Not only because it makes their process more fun, because they're like, oh man, I really like this, or I really love this. Like I love like taking stuff of mine and then just kind of changing it up a little bit. But also it's great for marketing pictures. Remember, you're taking pictures, you're posting and then letting them tag. All of those things are going to help you in your business. So never underestimate the power of pictures, of marketing, because people will see it and go, hey, I want to do that, or can you come to my house, or whatever, right? It's, the way the paint party business goes round. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to white, and we're going to add just some little dots of white in the centers of these flowers. Now, if these flowers were more of a whiter shade, you might actually have the terracotta or the yellowish color. You might end up using that as part of your center. But since we are doing those colors, we're going to do the white as part of the center. Okay, so we got like our centers in there. Now what we want to do is just take some of this white and just start to add some highlight lines here and there. So I'll put one here, maybe one right here, one over here. Okay. And then just start to, like, if you need one up here, maybe just kind of some fun little lines, some placement. And then we're going to add some black here in a minute. Oh, let's do the nose. I try to get like all the colors we need at the same time. So then once they rinse it and put it up, you can stay with another color. Okay, so now we're going to go to black. So we're going to use black for the eyes. And so again, these should already be drawn in. If not, you're looking right up the nose here. So I just like to kind of get a placement of the eyes first. All right, so kind of have our eyes there. And then you can just make them into an oval. So I always say, like, make a smaller oval first, kind of match it. And then as you feel comfortable, now you can make it bigger. So now we're just kind of going over it and making it a little bigger. So I might go back and forth. Again, for your paint party, you're not stressing your guests like this. You're going to have it already drawn, so they're just coloring it in. But for you and I, as we're, practicing painting, as we're making this, as we're maybe didn't want to print out the tracer because we're running out of ink or whatever, start small and then add. See how I'm just slowly adding to the eye? And I'm doing one at a time and then matching it. And I want to just say right now, never in the history are my eyes ever the same. So these are a little off. One's a little bit lower than the other. Same thing here. They're not perfect, but they're close. Okay, so now we're just going to start adding blacks. I'm going to add a little bit of black under the nose. I'm going to twist and pull if I need this, if I don't have a paint pen. If you have a paint pen and this is dry, again, you can just grab your paint pen and start to add your details. All right. And then I'm just going to start adding some black lines here and there. So you can just basically watch where I add them and literally copy exactly where I add them. Or you can just crank up the music and have some fun. Okay, now this part, when we start to go to the flowers, what we're doing is just kind of wobbling around. So it doesn't have to be perfectly outlined, but then in here, just add a little hint in the center. So just kind of almost like you're wobbling it and you're pulling your brush off a little bit. So just kind of pulling the brush off. So it just has those flowers kind of start to pop. Okay, and then the same thing for the leaves, just little hints here and there. Doesn't have to be totally outlined, but just to kind of give it some dimension. All right, and then do a double check. Double check all your painters. Make sure they have things that need to be lined up. Another fun thing to kind of add is if you turn your brush over, you can do this with the brown or the black. Just little dots here and there, just kind of make it more whimsical. And then again, you can either leave the bunny just kind of outlined in brown, or you can add just a hint of black as well. Twist and pull. Again, paint pens make everything easier. And I have them. I don't know why. I just love a brush. But they do make everything easier. Our paper plate bunny. Now we need to have his eyes come to life. So this part you want it to dry. I'm going to do it wet just because we're right here at the final. Oh, we need whiskers too. Let's do the whiskers first and then we'll go to the eyes. So the whiskers I like to do in the champagne. So the champagne, I just grab it and then just pull. And you got to commit. Once you grab your paint, you're looking where you're going, not where you are. And sometimes too with the whiskers, here's another little tip. If they're not showing up as much as you'd like, go ahead and just pull some with the white first, because that white's going to pop off the page here. And then we'll go back with champagne if we feel like we need to. So I just like to do 3 whiskers coming out of the blush that we did with our fingers earlier. And this is another place where painters kind of can get freaked out. So a paint pen can really help them kind of calm down. Now I'm going to take the champagne and just go right on top. And if you feel like your whiskers are showing up enough in the white, you don't need to do this process. So again, if you're like, that's going to stress my painters, I know my painters, then just do a white Posca or, white paint pen and call it a day. And if you're really good at this part of this, and my motto is like bad paintings are bad for business. And I just say it as a joke. I say it at the very beginning before anybody ever starts. So if their painting is bad, they don't feel like, oh man. But I always say, like, if you need me to jump in and help, like, I don't mind. And then if I see somebody who's really struggling, I'm just going to grab a little bit of paint, white paint, and I'm just going to do almost like a line here. And then I'm going to turn it over and get a dot, and then do a dot right by it. There we go. Just 2 little lines. But if you ever see somebody struggling, I always say, like, I'll walk around, and if I see somebody's painting that I'm like, oh man, they need some help, I'll just kind of like wait till I pass them just a little bit. And then I'll say, hey, remember, if you need any help at all, that's what I'm here for. Please let me know. But I never say it like right over their shoulder because I don't want their feelings to get hurt. Okay, so anyway, this is the Woodland Bunny. I think we're calling it the Woodland Bunny. I'm not for sure of the name, so if that changes, please forgive me. But I hope you enjoy it. I hope it makes you lots and lots of money at your paint parties. And I hope you have fun painting it. It was so much fun painting it, and I hope you enjoy it too. All right, let us know. Let us see your bunnies, and let us know if you have questions. Oh, and last thing, remember, all of the supply lists, the tracers, and the marketing materials, everything has been created for this. So you don't have to go create your own flyers. Everything's been created and beautifully done so you can grab and go. Remember, take my images so you can go ahead and book your parties. And then, of course, practice painting it. You never want to teach a painting if you can't paint it. But go ahead and use my images so you can start booking your parties now. All right, enjoy.